Hello, everyone. This is Deb McBride, and welcome to my astrology podcast. It is Sunday, April 28th, 2019, and I am broadcasting from beautiful Escazú, Costa Rica, where it is a bit of a balmy night. So, onward we go into the week, and the first stop we make is tomorrow, which is the retrograde station of Saturn, and that occurs at 8:55 p.m. Eastern Time, which means we've got all day with Saturn stationing, not moving. Saturn is a very immovable source at times. So we're all in the station. We are feeling the station for sure, because this is, remember, the Saturn-Pluto aspect. So Saturn is making the station at 20 degrees, 31 minutes of Capricorn, and its friend Pluto is at 23 degrees, 9 minutes Capricorn, where it stationed last week. Now, this has only been a couple days between the two retrogrades, but that's because they're traveling very close together, they're in the same sign, and they are essentially conjunct. And I, frankly, when I think about this week and the past few days, I certainly feel the Saturn part of this more than the Pluto part of this. I think Pluto was just, okay, it's Pluto, it's going retrograde, it does this, it's a little more subtle. But the Saturn is definitely rearing its head. So, on that note, Saturn is structure. Saturn is responsibility. Saturn is where we deal with the material world. And, everybody has to deal with the material world. But there are some people, many people in fact, that must deal with the material world so much to the point where they forget the rest of the universe, or they just choose not to deal with it. And my feeling about Saturn is, yes, it's about responsibility. It's about duty. We have to pay attention to Saturn. We have to do Saturn. But Saturn, when it gets with an outer planet, is another ballgame, because, it's showing us our material world, and it's showing us where we need to be responsible and dutiful and respectful and all. But it's also showing us, it always shows us where we need to do work. And Saturn always gives us that extra oomph of, you have to be responsible, and kind of guilt trips us into the whole feeling of, I have to work again, I've got more work to do. And the thing with Saturn is it doesn't let up until the work is done. And this is, if you've ever had a Saturn transit, which all of us have had, if you have it close to a planet such as the moon or the sun, you realize that the work is done when Saturn says it's done, and not a minute sooner. So if you have been working on anything in these last months, in the last year and a half since Saturn has entered Capricorn, whatever you're working on, whatever you're doing that is so focused and committed, which are big Saturn words, you're going to feel like, oh my God, can I do this project anymore? It's as if they've told you to do your homework again and again and again, the same project over and over, the same homework assignment over and over. Write the same book report 10 million times. And this is really the gist of what's happening. And now we're really kicking into high gear, because Saturn is, it's been making us work in Capricorn, of course. That's where it's ruling the heavens in some ways. But it is truly, profoundly, now with Pluto, and whatever it has not been worked out, Pluto and Saturn together are going to make sure that happens. And when we start dealing with the outer planets in Saturn, we no longer just have Saturn to contend with. We have this other force, which has its own personality, melding with Saturn's responsibility and duty. So each of us is being called to do something right now that is very significant and important in our lives, and confronting work on a very major unconscious level because of the nature of Pluto. Pluto is about transformation. Saturn is about structure. Pluto is destructive in that it wants us to rip down the structure and build something new. But we can only do that after we know what part of the structure doesn't work for us anymore. And that's all the work we've been doing with Saturn. So the way I'm seeing it is there's something that each and every one of us has in the house that is being triggered by Saturn and Pluto, and probably other planets and things that you're getting in your chart where you're getting Saturn and Pluto. And each and every one of us has to do some work there. And each and every one of us needs to connect with whatever that is on a very, very profound, deep, intense level, because that's Pluto. And we can just keep working the way you've been working. But basically what Pluto is saying, it steps in and says, oh no, we have to go deeper. We have to go deeper. And Saturn says, we have to work harder. We have to work harder. Just when you thought you're exhausted and you can't work any harder, you can't work any deeper. Oh, come on. I've done so much already. Why is it going to be this much more difficult? Because it is. Because that's the nature of these two planets. We have to have determination to work through this, to come through this in such a profound way that nothing can get in the way. And you're going to get bored, and you're going to get tired, and you're going to get irritated, and you're going to want to give up. And right now, that is so in the air because Saturn is retrograding and stopping. So it's like, why am I bothering? What is this about? I've done enough. I want to put my feet up. I want to take a nap. But it's not over. And we've got a way to go yet. And so figuring out what that journey is, figuring out where that journey is taking you, if you know what it is and you're in good shape with it, and you're like, okay, I know where I have to do the work here, because it's probably got its tentacles in a bunch of different places in your life, then you can sit down at your desk and do some creative thinking and work with the energies that we are being given. And right now, with Saturn stationing and stopping, it's causing us to pause and think and be present and not necessarily feel like we're moving. We are moving. We're always moving. But it feels like we're stuck. And when we get stuck, we can take a break and walk across the street and go get, a soda. We can get a cup of coffee. We can walk around the block. We can get some nice distraction. But the thing that's most important to remember is that we have to come back to it, because it's waiting there on the table when we get back, on the desk. On the table, on the desk, under the bed, in the kitchen sink. It's waiting. And you can take your break and you can go, walk around the block and get some air. But ultimately what's happening is you are dealing with this for the next year and a half at least. And the important thing to remember is that you are going to get through this, and you have to have determination. And you have to understand that these two planets are working together ultimately to enlighten all of us. We're getting this enlightening energy. It's just that it's a real powerful shift and change in everybody's life. And in order for that to happen, we have to apply a real powerful determination to get to the other side of it. So Saturn and Pluto are handled best with that determination, with that commitment and focus. But you have to look beyond what's on your table. You have to look beyond what is showing up on the surface, because Saturn gets us to deal with the material world very efficiently. We deal with the material world, but it's not enough. So what you may have found in the process since December 2017, when Saturn entered Capricorn, is that you can deal with these things that are being presented to you in a profound, deep, intense way, or you can handle them kind of on the surface. And handling them on the surface isn't really getting to the nature of what you need to do. So you are being called to, each of us is being called to work through this with utmost attention and determination, and allow yourself the space in your life to understand this and to take control and power over your life. Because when you don't deal with an outer planet, They rule the subconscious and unconscious realms. They are not giving us the material world. And so when you don't deal with an outer planet, it deals with you. And so it brings up things seem out of control. You thought you had your ducks in a row, Saturn's in Capricorn, everything is all organized, the spreadsheets are done. But there's something deeply, profoundly happening that you have to embrace. And that you have to connect with the depth and the real, intense, hidden, in the corner, under the chair, dark, in the dark energy. The energy that says, okay, I've never really understood this before. I never really looked at this before, but Pluto's making me do this. So, what I always define Saturn and Pluto, especially the conjunction, as you will transform. You will. You have no choice. So we all have no choice, and we go forward. And it's not simple. It's not easy. It's just we're going to be handed things, tests and all, as we go through this process. But Saturn's going to, Saturn is the material world. Saturn is the surface. Saturn can say, and this is what's really important, if you see the same picture, yet you're still being handed things, if you see the same picture, it's like watching the same movie over and over again, this, and I know what happens here, then you are absolutely, needing to take it down a notch into the next level. And each of us is doing that. It's like, wow, I really feel stuck. And right now you probably really feel stuck, and everybody feels stuck. There's a stuckness in the air, and that's because Saturn has stopped. And it feels like time has stopped. And if you feel really stuck, don't worry, because the energy is going to move again, and we are going to get there. And each and every one of us is going to feel like we have to tackle something. But the determination and the commitment are profound, and the complete and utter, focus on the path ahead. Don't let anyone distract you. Don't let anyone tell you, well, I don't see that happening in your life, because you know what's happening in your life. So when Saturn says, you're not working hard enough, you want to scream back at, what do you mean I'm not working hard enough? At this point, I deserve a promotion. You need to actually listen and go deeper and embrace it. And it's going to come. It's going to come. It will absolutely, just your presence with the issue, just your focus, just your commitment, you're going to get through this, and we're all going to get through this. It just feels really stuck. It's not, I can assure you. We all feel it, but we are really moving. We're moving in an internal direction that's going to free us up from something profound. And each of us is on this journey together. So you're not alone. The other thing that is happening is that our friend Mercury, which entered Aries not so long ago, is getting entangled with Saturn and Pluto this week. So this is very interesting because, a few days ago, or about 2 weeks ago, Mercury went into Aries, and then Venus followed a few days later. So this is what's happening. Mercury, on Wednesday, the 1st of May, and can you believe it's May, will be squaring Saturn in the middle of the night. And Mercury is the planet of communication, and it is the planet of intellect and ideas and writing and speaking. And it's for anybody who's an artist or anyone who has to do any sort of writing, speaking, thinking. And Mercury is going to make a challenging relationship to Saturn. That's what a square is. It's a 90-degree angle. So Mercury's finally gotten to the point in Aries where it's going to talk to Saturn in a very sharp way. And the last time we had an aspect is that Mercury was conjunct Saturn back in January. So now we're reviewing all of this. What did you learn back in January? What happened? So who did you talk to? What did you decide? What part of that story maybe didn't get completely resolved, or what do you need to reflect on and refer to from that story? So Mercury is wedged between Saturn and Pluto in a square. And that's going to be Wednesday and Thursday of this week, because on Thursday, Mercury squares Pluto in the evening. So between the middle of the night, Wednesday, and then the evening, this is Eastern Standard or Eastern Daylight Time, 5:49 p.m. on Thursday, Mercury's going to square Pluto. So you can do a lot with this energy. You can get frustrated and throw in the towel. You could get annoyed with something that someone says to you. You could get defensive and speak back harshly. Or you can take everything as a symbol and watch the messages come to you, because there are messages in these next couple days. And again, they're Saturn-Pluto messages. So first we hit Saturn, and Mercury's going to say, oh, I'm so tired of the same thing over and over. I'm so tired of the same message. I'm so tired of the same ideas. And I just feel like I can't break through this wall of Saturn. And then it's going to square Pluto, and you're going to go, oh, that's what this is about. Aha. And that's the blessing of Pluto. So don't take anything at face value. If you're hearing messages, if you're hearing the same message over those 2 days, if you are feeling like you have to deal with the same stuff, then you need to address Mercury. And he's going to get entangled with Saturn and Pluto. This is profound. We want to pay attention. We want to write things down. If you keep a journal, that's a good thing to do. If you meditate, even better. Pay attention to what you're hearing in your meditation. And I can guarantee you're going to get some answers about feeling stuck and feeling Saturn-Pluto issues coming forward, and whatever it is that you feel like you've been working out during this time period. But some key answers are coming forward this week, and I advise everyone to work with it. So that's a very important thing. Now, what else is going to happen very nicely, very late on Thursday evening, Eastern Time, is that Mercury is going to trine Jupiter. Jupiter. So Jupiter is in Sagittarius, Mercury is in Aries. We have all this nice fire, and that is going to end this whole situation between Wednesday and Thursday. Well, I like that, because Mercury, that's like a major aspect for Mercury to trine Jupiter. And because of that, we're going to really be able to move forward from this. So we get a little gift. We'll be able to move forward from this information that we get on that day, those days, Wednesday and Thursday. And this is really great, because it means that we're going to look at Saturn, look at Pluto, and Jupiter's going to say, of course it's all good. Of course you have an epiphany. Of course you know what to do. So pay attention. That's 3 major aspects that Mercury is making between Wednesday and Thursday. So I advise you to get with your journal or your meditation room and listen. Mercury is also going to be sextiling Mars, which is a mild aspect before it works with Saturn, but that's more like Tuesday night into Wednesday wee hours. So Mercury and Mars are in what we call a mutual reception. And what that means is that for the next few days, and what we've been experiencing since Mercury has been in Aries, is Mercury is living in Mars's house. Mercury is like exchanged apartment keys with Mars. Mars is in Gemini, Mercury is in Aries. They are visiting each other's homes. So it's like they did a reverse Airbnb or something. So basically they're talking to each other and they're communicating. So when you feel like, Mercury squares Saturn and you're like, this again, flip it, look at it differently, because Mars, which is the planet of energy and warrior spirit, is in Gemini, and it's helping Mercury see things from a different angle. Then when finally, Mercury trines Jupiter later on Thursday night, you're going to get some real sort of confirmation or answers as to what's really happening with the current Saturn-Pluto situation. So we're going into this looking for some answers. We're going into this looking for some advice. We're going into this looking for the profound reasons we're each having this experience. So that's something to bear in mind. I like that Jupiter comes later. Jupiter is the reward after working through Saturn-Pluto with Mercury. And don't get bummed out. Keep moving. Mercury is going to trine Jupiter, and that's really lovely. So, very happy about that. What's going to then happen on Saturday is that we have a new moon in Taurus, and this new moon is at 14 degrees Taurus, and it is 6:46 p.m. Eastern time. And 14 degrees of fixed is very close to 15 degrees of fixed. It's 14 and change, and that's the cardinal axis too. So there may be some world news events on that new moon. It's a new moon. It's Taurus. It's a good thing because Taurus is, material things, and it's comfort food, and it's where you feel comfortable. So we have a chance to start fresh on Saturday in the evening, and we can experience some new fresh, Taurus is the sign of spring. It's the plants growing. It's the earth, and it's nature. And so a new moon in the sign of nature is always a really blessed thing. So embrace this new moon. It's not really aspecting anything treacherous, so we can feel comfortable. The next day, on the 5th Sunday, while it's still in Taurus, it's going to make some nice aspects that morning to Saturn and Pluto and Neptune before it goes void at 11:10 a.m. on the 5th. So then it's going to be void all day next Sunday, mostly like today was, except 11:10 a.m. to 11:40 p.m. So chances are you're going to go to sleep and the moon is still void. But enjoy it. It's a nice new moon. It's Taurus. Get out and enjoy the beautiful weather, if it's beautiful where you are, and, appreciate and embrace nature. And especially Sunday, it's going to be one of those lazy Sundays with a Taurus moon. So I think it's good. And then Mercury is going to enter Taurus on Monday the 6th in the afternoon. So that's actually very good because then it's going to freshen up itself while it gets to Uranus. And we can get out of that Aries, Saturn, Pluto energy. So yes, I believe that each of us needs to sort of address this Mercury thing this week. So tomorrow Saturn goes retrograde. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Mercury gets to Saturn and Pluto, and it trines Jupiter, yay! And we get a little reward, and then we have this lovely new moon on Saturday. So I would recommend being studious this week and then enjoying your weekend. And that's what it's all about this week. Next week, is going to be very interesting one with the week of the 6th, the 5th and the 6th, because Venus is going to pick up where Mercury is this week. And then we have a whole other host of things to talk about next week's podcast. So on that note, I thank you very much for listening. This is Deb McBride. I welcome you to have a session with me. My website is debmcbride.com. My email is deb@debmcbride.com. I'm on Twitter @debastrology and Instagram sometimes @debastrology. And I have put up a Saturn-Pluto video on YouTube. If you're interested in watching it, it'll give you some information about your sign and what houses Saturn and Pluto are going to be visiting for you. And so I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in hearing more about this, I definitely would recommend going over to YouTube and looking me up and seeing my channel where you'll get that Saturn-Pluto video. And I bid you a lovely week. Stay focused, stay committed, don't give up. Keep moving, because we have to. And we are going to all get to this. We're going to transform our lives, and just think of how great it's going to feel afterwards. It's going to be amazing. Thank you. Have a good week.